Hello, everybody. Good to see you again, and welcome to an emergency podcast presented by the good folks at TrueMark Financial. Check out truemark.com/rates. You know all the good stuff we've told you about TrueMark Financial. This is a free agency frenzy, an emergency pod. You see Fran Duffy in the middle. You see Zach Berman on the right. I'm Bo Wolf, and we're here to talk about the Eagles' newest addition at corner. And guess what? It's another former first-round pick. This time, it's Adoree Jackson. Zach, what can you tell us about the Birds' newest corner?
Yeah, 1-year deal, 29 years old, will be 30 this season. An established veteran. I mean, we spoke earlier about the profile player they were going with in the previous signings. That's not Adoree Jackson. Jackson is going into year 9 in the NFL, 4 years with the Titans, 4 years with the Giants. Interestingly, the Eagles were interested. They were interested in Jackson when he was a free agent a few years ago. Actually, Jackson had visits scheduled to the Giants and the Eagles. I believe it was March 22nd. And this was the 2021 season. And he visited the Giants first, similar to Ben McAdoo. They gave him the offer, and he didn't even come down to Philly, right? He signed a 3-year, $39 million deal with the Giants then, was on a 1-year deal last year. Comes with a lot of starting experience, over 80 games of starting experience. I'll defer to Fran in terms of like the type of athlete, but was a great athlete coming out, a two-way player at USC. You're probably not getting that same athletic ability now, but known to have the inside-outside versatility, right? So we talked about the different ways that the Eagles could play Cooper DeJean. Adoree Jackson has inside-outside versatility. So curious to see what he has left at this stage of his career, but he is someone who, you know, he started 82 games, started 5 games last year, was a full-time starter really for the previous 7 years before other than injuries. So this is a veteran signing for the Eagles that doesn't get in the way of Kelee Ringo.
Fran, here's what you wrote in the scouting report on Adoree Jackson ahead of the Eagles-Giants game this season. Not the cover guy he once was, has fallen off. That's it.
He was a former first-round pick. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, we're talking about a guy that was a former number 1 pick, a guy that was a great athlete. So clearly not the player that he was when the Giants signed him in free agency from Tennessee that Zach was referencing a few years back. But a guy that still has inside-outside versatility, the guy that's been around the league for a while. So, you know, you make a run of the guy. I can't imagine the contract. I don't think the details have come out yet, right? I don't think that it's going to be some big monthly dollar amount. So at the end of the day, not a bad veteran signing here.
Yeah, a year ago, he re-signed with the Giants on a 1-year deal worth $1.5 million. And so this is a year after that, and he didn't really play much this year. I don't imagine that there's really much money at this at all, but we have talked about the Eagles creating some low bars for the internal players they want to win jobs to clear. It would be pretty disappointing, I would say, if Kelee Ringo can't clear the Adoree Jackson bar. I do see some people asking about him as a punt returner. That's something he did early in his career and was pretty adept at it. Has not really done it recently. Did it a little bit in 2022. Really, that was the only year he's done it since 2019. So I don't think, as much as the Eagles, I think, would like to add a punt returner who can take that off Cooper DeJean's plate, I don't think that's going to be Adoree Jackson's role, Zach.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think we'll see what happens in the draft and if they bring back Covey. But of the internal options, you're much more apt to see Anaya Smith or Jahan Dotson return punts for the Eagles than Adoree Jackson. I don't view Jackson as filling that role anymore in his career. And honestly, the signings, like if you look at this coupled with Harrison Bryant today, Josh Uche today, A.J. Dillon yesterday, none of these players are getting in the way of younger players on the roster. I mean, even A.J. Dillon, like, he's not getting in the way of Will Shipley. Harrison Bryant, we'll see what happens at tight end, right? They don't really have young guys at tight end per se. But Jackson's not getting in the way of Kelee Ringo at this point. If Ringo struggles or if there's an injury, Jackson's someone who has experience, but you're not counting on Adoree Jackson, in my opinion, to be your Darius Slay replacement. Like, Darius Slay is a much better football player than Adoree Jackson.
Yeah, and frankly, I think the Eagles would hope that Eli Ricks is a better football player at this point than Adoree Jackson. I think this is a guy who is here, has been around the league, but I think they would almost be disappointed if he even wins a roster spot. That's kind of the way that I view Adoree Jackson right now. I mean, it's a lottery ticket to take. That's fine, but I don't think this even precludes them from adding another corner down the line. Fran.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I totally agree. I think when you're looking at the value that he brings, it's that veteran presence in the room that honestly that Darius Slay referred to, a couple weeks ago that created that social spat. We'll call it a spat with him and CJ Gardner-Johnson. But just adding that kind of guy to the locker room, I think makes sense when you have that young secondary. And now it's just a matter. I agree. He's probably not somebody that in an ideal world makes the 53.
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, if we were grading the move, I would rather someone who's like 25, 26, that age profile, just finished their rookie deal, or similar to a Harrison Bryant or an AJ Dillon or Josh Uche, going in they played on a 1-year deal last year after their rookie contract. That's probably more the profile player that I would seek. And there are guys out there, Bo, you outlined that going into free agency, that there are a number of those types of players. I don't know if it was a price thing or if the Eagles wanted, as Fran said, that veteran in the room, because they don't really have, that like 7-8 year guy anymore, right? And that's what Jackson gives you. But I mean, I would caution Eagles fans to like look at this as they just lost Darius Slay, now they signed Adoree Jackson.
I agree with that. Now the Eagles will have some touch points on him. They will have been able to ask Saquon about what the guy's like in the locker room and stuff like that. So you can rest assured on that front. Hey, Fran, since you weren't with us earlier, what did you think of the Harrison Bryant addition at tight end for the Eagles?
Yeah, I mean, that's one that makes a lot of sense. I thought you guys covered it well. I actually just finished listening to the pod a little before I came down here. So I thought that when you looked at Harrison Bryant coming out, this was a player that I thought had 3-down ability. I was pretty high on his skill set. Hasn't quite hit that ceiling that I envisioned for him, when he was coming out of college. But this is a guy that has gotten better as a blocker. I thought he had traits to get better as a blocker, considering his size, the athletic profile, the production. And so, to me, when I look at Harrison Bryant, that's a fine swing to take for a guy that could be your tight end 3. I do think that he probably slots in behind Grant Calcaterra, and I think he's a better blocker than what they had on the roster last year. Is he a plus blocker right now? No, I think that again, I thought the traits were there for him to be a solid blocker at the point of attack.
All right, Adoree Jackson, very exciting.
So in like other cornerback news, because if you listen to watch today's show, we spoke about Asante Samuel Jr. And we said that could be an option for the Eagles to go after. That's more of the age profile we're discussing. Asante Samuel Jr. is visiting the Arizona Cardinals, so he's at the stage now where he's visiting teams. But I found that to be interesting. That clearly, either the Eagles aren't interested or aren't interested to the price point that they're bringing. But like if you're visiting, then there's no offer on the table yet, right? So that probably speaks to the Eagles' evaluation.
Yeah, usually at this point, a visit means you're trying to sort of drum up a market, although it did work out okay for Evan Ingram this week. But you also see it with, Russell Wilson. I think it's more – and now it could be in this situation where they want to get their own medical stuff, because that's part of the deal with Asante Samuel is he went through this shoulder injury. And so maybe it's the kind of thing where there's an offer contingent upon him clearing a medical or something like that.
I think that was the case with Evan Ingram as well, right? Yeah. Now the Russell Wilson, I can't really speak to that. I think quarterbacks are kind of going on visits, but my guess is there's health with Samuel.
Do you think that the signing of Adoree Jackson means that the Eagles are going to be terrible next year?
Because he's on bad teams historically?
Well, people are very upset about this, it seems like.
Oh, are they really? Yeah, I mean, yeah, like I got to tell you, I love this time of year. I love doing emergency pods. Like, this is fun. This is cool. Instant reaction. Bo and I used to always grade the moves, but the reality is, like, even internally, they view these as throwing darts, right? Like you think Greedy Williams was we talked about Matt Hennessy. You go on. I remember there was a year when like Daryl Worley, the Eagles traded for Daryl Worley. They signed Jatavius Brown. He retires. Will Parks didn't last through the season. Like the Eagles are. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The Eagles, they're throwing darts. They give some guaranteed money. Like, I mean, it's good for the player, but they're internally, like, they're not throwing a parade for these players. So I would say that I know, like, this isn't talking down. I'm just kind of being honest. Like, this is they're rounding out their roster. They're bringing in players that they'll see how they look. But, I see in the chat Devin White. That's a little different because they did give Devin White, like, some money. Like, Devin White, the expectation was that he was on the team. These signings that they're doing, these 4 signings, these are guys who, if they don't make the 53, it wouldn't be like this major upset.
All right. There you go. Fran, I'm going to give you one last chance to plug the big board that's up on allphly.com right now. Great chance to become a diehard, $36 for the year. You get to take a look at Fran's vertical and horizontal big board.
Yeah, the feedback so far has been really good. Measured feedback. I was expecting a little bit more vitriol, I think, and I didn't get it. So I guess that's a good thing.
You did a good job in the upfront explaining your process.
The numbers, I guess. Yeah, I think that. Well, thank you. I was very cognizant of making sure that I tried to do that. It's the top 100. I think 103 players. The reason why I did that, I didn't want to leave the final 3 guys that were still in that tier. So it's like 103, 104 players, all tiered out, and you can get into my thought process behind what all of these players will be, 4 years from now as we get into their careers.
And I'm going to give you some flowers here. I love the classification by like future earnings. I think that's a good way to frame it, especially during free agency month. But if you want to kind of look at this from an Eagles perspective, too, we've talked a lot about this being a strong defensive line and edge rusher class. But one thing that really jumped out when I was looking at that was the safeties. And this is like we mentioned when the Eagles trade C.J. Gardner-Johnson, that this is a good safety class. But even in kind of that range where the Eagles might be drafting, there could be a guy in the first round. We don't think of that as a position for the Eagles to go after, who's like really high on your board, who kind of falls to 32 because of positional value.
All right, there you go. Well, Adoree Jackson is here.
We talked about that too the other day, Zach. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Bo.
No, go ahead, Fran. I was just closing it up, so go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say we talked about that the other day. When you're talking about like safeties, it's the difference when you look on the draft database and you see there are players where I have them highly ranked, but I'll put the round projection there as round 2 or 3, round 3, round 4. So all of that comes into play.
First, we have a super chat to get to from N, who says, I know Vic likes to keep guys on one side to handle motion, but is there any chance that Quinyon Mitchell travels more next year without a sure thing on the other side? It's a very good question. What do you think, Fran?
Question. I think that it's probably still a little bit less likely. I guess it just depends on, who is that other corner that's going to start. How confident do they feel in that player? Has done some traveling with some players in the past, if memory serves. So it wouldn't be completely out of character. But look, I don't think Adoree Jackson is going to be the starting corner opposite of Quinyon Mitchell at the end of the day. So I get why we're talking about it, but I don't think that will be the answer there.
Yeah, we asked Vic about this a little bit during the season, Zach, and he said he has done it in the past. But I think his preference, which you kind of saw with just the way that he didn't rotate units that much and when wanted to keep the same 11 guys on the field for the most part, even along the D line more than the Eagles have seen in the past. I think he thinks there's an advantage to keeping things simple and everybody knowing exactly what their job is in every space on the field. Yeah,
you hit on the head. I don't think they're going to have Quinyon Mitchell travel. I don't think they're going to mess with that. If they mess with anything, I think I'm still not ruling out Cooper DeJean playing on the outside.
There you go. All right. Thanks again to TrueMark Financial, TrueMark.com for rates, and to learn more, TrueMark Financial, federally insured by the NCUA, equal opportunity lender. Rates are subject to change. We will be back with you tomorrow at 2:00 for the last episode of the week, barring another emergency pod. Surely there's some other former first round or second round pick out there who Howie has not signed yet and needs to add to his collection. Before we go, I will just close with this, Zach. When the birds need a guy whose cost isn't so high, that's Adoree. That's Adoree. When you have a D-line and you think Ringo is fine, that's Adoree. That's all I got.
When we were pushing the pod back to 6, I thought you had to spend time with your kids. I didn't know you were writing music. But
that was done in the 90 seconds before the show started.
Oh,
if we had pushed it back further, I didn't have to do kids pickup, I might have been able to get the whole thing done.
You are special. That is for sure. You are special when it comes to those music lyrics.
Teams will throw. All right.
Yeah, yeah. I think you could appear at Parks Casino or Parks.
Can't wait to see your grandfather there. I look forward to it.
It's near everything.
All right. That'll do it for this episode of the PHLY Eagles podcast. For Fran, Zach, and Julia, I'm Bo. We thank you for listening. What an emergency pod it was. Adoree Jackson is here. For how long? We'll find out. As always, we love you.
We all silly like the mayor.